Welcome back, everybody, to the long-awaited no-hat episode of Lockdown 23 and 1. I know a lot of y'all probably are discombobulated and started unsubscribing seeing me with no hat, but this is the prototype you're gonna see if you see me in the street, so don't be scared. Come on by and say hello like old Robert did while I was on vacation camping. Shout out to you and all my Cherokeans out there. Hopefully your barbershop takes off, my friend, but today we're gonna be speaking about prison justice. That's right, 3 stories of individuals losing their life. More than likely because of their paperwork, or their crimes, for those that don't know exactly what paperwork means. So let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is where you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. Now, you know, one of the top questions asked to me across all platforms is, what happens to sex offenders in prison? And you know, I'm gonna be completely honest, the majority of places across the country have special units, special blocks, for them to live in with other individuals with the same kind of crimes. So they tend to be okay in a lot of establishments. I even heard that in the federal prison system, if you attack someone with sex crimes, it can be a hate crime, which could add decades to your prison sentence, so that keeps people away from those guys as well. But there's times where certain individuals might come into these blocks and they ain't got time to be living with any of them. And with that being said, the first story is coming from Arizona State Prison. The article begins saying a notorious prisoner killed 3 fellow inmates, including 2 convicted pedophiles during a prison brawl in Arizona on Friday. Just picture that, ladies and gentlemen. 3 individuals got killed by 1 man. That's some John Wick shit, right? Because, you know, usually 3 people see someone pull out a shank trying to kill them, they're going to be ripping and running everywhere. So if I were to guess, it's just my 2 cents, he caught them either off guard or in a corner or a cell somewhere and they couldn't leave. The incident occurred at Arizona State Complex in Tucson. State officials have named 3 dead men as Saul Alvarez, Thorne Harnage, and Donald Lashley. It says the only named suspect is another inmate named Ricky Wessner, which, like I said, is a notorious inmate because he was sentenced to 16 life sentences after he was convicted of leading a prisoner's revolt in 2004. And jumping over to another article kind of breaking down more about that situation, it says, in early 2004, the Maury unit of the Lewis complex was the site of the longest standoff between inmates and law enforcement officers in United States history. It was a 15-day ordeal beginning January 18th and ending February 2nd.
First look at one of the inmates.
On January 18, 2004, the guard tower at Lewis Prison became a prison for 2 Arizona corrections officers. Inmates Ricky Wassenaar and Stephen Coy used a homemade knife to overpower a guard in the kitchen, then stole his uniform and got into the fortified tower.
In addition, they sexually assaulted the female officer and a kitchen officer.
Officer Fraley was rushed to the hospital. Weeks later, she spoke about the ordeal.
Did you think you were going to die?
Oh, definitely. From the moment they came in.
They told you they were going to kill you?
They had no problem with killing us.
A state panel found widespread failures at the prison.
They saw that with some regularity, officers were walking through with their Game Boys and with DVDs and other things that would occupy their time.
Can you imagine, though, being a correctional officer held hostage for 15 days? Wonder what they were feeding them. Steak trays, bag lunches? My condolences do go out to the victims, man. You know, they lived through a very crazy situation. And like I said, Wessner was sentenced to 16 life sentences. How does an individual like this even end up in a block with other inmates? After sitting in a cell by himself with good behavior for about 10 or 15 years, if I were to guess. I haven't done my research on it, I'm just guessing. They tend to give these guys a little bit of a step down. His age and all that classification said, you know what, he probably ain't gonna be a problem no more. See if they can handle being around other people. You know, it might be mandated by law. It varies by state. But one of the hostages, like you heard me say, was sexually assaulted, so they both became sexual predators. On paperwork, at least, they got sex crimes, so that's probably another reason why he might have landed in that block. Now, jumping back into the original article, they're going to be speaking about the victims that passed away and what they were in prison for. Alvarez was sent to prison in 2004 after he was convicted in Maricopa County for first-degree murder. Harnage arrived in prison late last year after he was convicted in Pima County for engaging in sexual conduct with a minor. And Harnage's family actually spoke about this situation. They visited him the day before he was killed.
I've spoken with multiple families today, including the wife of Harnage. She says she got a call from the prison chaplain just after noon, telling her that her husband passed away. She says she and her kids will always remember him as someone who loved his family. She says they visited him just yesterday.
And this brings up another point that I brought to y'all's attention in many videos in the past. You know, even though these guys have filthy crimes, that doesn't mean that their family doesn't stop loving them, right? And they're going to fight for them, regardless of the situation. Always remember that, and that's why a lot of people that kill these individuals, they get the same kind of justice treatment as if someone that didn't have that kind of paperwork. Because they all got loved ones, and those loved ones still want justice. But according to the Pima County Attorney's Office, Harnage abused his niece when she was 7 or 8 years old, and it took prosecutors more than 7 years to put him away. And he still has family members showing up, showing love. Now, last but not least, Lashley arrived at the facility in 2023, not too long ago, after he was convicted in Pima County on 4 counts of sexual conduct with a minor under 15 years old, 2 with a minor under 12 years old, and 3 counts of molestation of a child and 2 counts of sexual conduct with a minor under 18. He had been sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. And Ricky Wessner, the individual that took all 3 of those individuals' lives, was serving 28 years before the whole prison escape incident on 8 counts of aggravated assault and 1 count of armed robbery stemming from the February 5th, 1997 heist at the Empress Adult Video Center. He shot at the police officers as he tried to elude them. Wessner robbed the adult theater just 35 days after his release from prison for robbery and aggravated assault. And this guy right here, Stephen John Coy, was the individual that helped him try to escape back in 2005. I'm just throwing him in the mix so you can see what he looks like. He was serving a life sentence already before the whole prison incident for the 1993 armed robbery and rape of a 34-year-old woman at a Tucson business. And as you can see, even when they go to prison, the ditch just keeps on getting deeper. Many individuals, when they ain't got nothing to lose, man, they'll try some extreme activities. Now, you won't believe this. I don't know if it's because they have a shortage of prisons in that state or what, but Wessner, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, the individual that killed those 3 inmates was transferred from that prison to another one, which typically happens when something like that happens. They don't keep him in the same place. But the prison that they transferred him to is the prison where his accomplice for the failed prison attempt is doing his time at, right? So I don't know if that's probably the best place for both of them to be housed. But that's about the bulk of the story. It's not very often you hear about one inmate killing 3 people pretty much at the same time in prison. The differences here is there's no guns, straight hand-to-hand combat, right, man? So it was probably treacherous and extremely bloody. Many people are probably celebrating like it's prison justice. But the guy who did it's a sexual offender as well. So what does that mean? Kind of cancels everything out. Kind of like me doing this episode with no hat. Like I said, right, I lost a few subscribers, gained a few, just balanced it out, you know? I am not a part of that drop top crew yet, all right? This is just a fadeaway. I can fade it back in. Either way, I was going to bring a couple other stories your way, but I think I'll save them for another episode and dedicate this one strictly to this guy, the notorious Wessner, or aka John Wick at the penitentiary. He might be like the first individual to do something like this. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode of the day. Stay tuned. I got plenty more content coming your way. The next couple of episodes, I believe, is going to be some courtroom sentencing. So be on the lookout for that. I know y'all love them, and I do as well. I hear in the comment section a lot, like, how can you, being someone that's been to prison, enjoy watching these guys go to prison? Well, it's not so much about me enjoying it. It's more along the lines of people seeing the reality of things. But at the same time, I do enjoy it somewhat. Because a lot of these guys I bring your way are just monsters. They deserve every last drip drop of smoke they get. But this is the reality of what a lot of people have no idea about. A different side of life called the justice system that anyone could get caught up in at any given time. Just like if a natural disaster happens, there's no power, you have no house, you know, what are you going to do? No one to turn to. How are you going to survive? Better start learning some survival techniques, right? So it's always best to be prepared is what I'm saying. I got about 6 or 7 life straws. Them things last like 5 years. You could drink out a damn septic tank with them things. I think maybe now I wouldn't go testing it out, but I'm out of here though, ladies and gentlemen. I promise the next time I will be wearing my hat. Y'all be easy, be safe, and more importantly than anything, stay free.